right here with us. So please share your story.
All right. Good evening. My name is Chidima Inibili. I'm a graduate of Covenant University, International Relations. So I can identify with what my gentleman here just said. He said it's time to look into the private sector because it's important. Because I don't think I would have enjoyed having to sit at home not doing anything. But it feels good to go to school at the beginning of your session and knowing that definitively you're graduating at so and so year. It sets your life on track because the world is not waiting for anybody. So I feel like we need to look into what the private sector is doing that the public sector is not doing and bring it and let us all sit down together and not fight each other, but sit down together and identify what we're lacking in the public sector and what we have in the private sector that we don't have in the public sector. Thank you.
So I would like to come to the front here, to the gentleman at the front here, who I recognize as a former president of ASU. But you have just heard, particularly from a lot of the students here. And if I were to be honest, the damage that has been done to the educational system is not solely as a result of government inaction, though there is a large responsibility there. But even the absences, the breakages in education, it has had a massive impact on students. We heard the gentleman behind there. He was just about to write an examination. There was a strike. And so it has largely had a residual effect on our educational system. So how do we begin to fix that?
Well, Stanley, I think I need to correct an impression. It's not true that the best universities in the world are private. They are not. I need to correct that. And then secondly, I need to correct another impression that ASU is asking for 1.3 trillion naira. No. In 2006 to 2009 negotiations, teams were sent out to all the universities, and they came back and reported that based on what they have assessed scientifically, we needed about 1.5 trillion naira to address the problem of rot and decay in 24 federal universities for a period of 3 years. Government said subsequently that it cannot afford that amount. And it sent its team. I don't have to go through that because the president of ASU had talked about that. That team came back and said by their assessment of 82 public universities, we needed 1.3 trillion naira at least for 6 years. Yes.
For a period of 6 years.
6 years.
But bottom line, 1.3 is what is needed.
Sure.
To move our education system forward.
And it's not us that is asking for that amount of money.
It is based on the needs assessment, which the government itself says. Well, let's look at a question of strategy. And I would like to go to the back there, to the lady at the back there. There is a challenge in our curriculum and how we can build graduates that can fit in. And as a product of the Nigerian university system myself, I can share that a lot of the things that I learned about my profession, I learned eventually when I got into the system. So how can we design our educational system so that it can provide for Nigeria the kind of graduates that we really need?
Okay, thank you for that. My name is Memo Pashi, and I am an educational consultant, the private sector. One thing I think is very important, I think Mrs. Obi has spoken about it, is that we need to prepare our graduates for the real world, and that's what, in Nigeria, the course choices are quite limited in the universities. And there's so many needs that we have in the society in the first place that are not being trained for in the universities. And so those, apart from all the other challenges that we have, that is something that's major. We have to totally overhaul, upgrade the curriculum to reflect the needs in the society. Also, I think the ASU, even when I graduated about 20-something years ago, and so ASU strikes were still ongoing then. And so if they were so successful, you would think that if they were so successful, then they would have gotten results by now. So if they've been going on since 1997 or 1996, that's quite major. So I think one thing we have to be able to look at, and part of the funding that we're talking about, partnerships, research, those kind of things have to go on. I don't know any of our universities yet that are producing things. And I think that universities should also try and take our eyes away from looking up to the government. We should be able to come to a point where we are producing, we are doing research, we are producing things that can be sold. Income can come in also. Because if we're putting this amount into facilities, we should be able to use technology to create things that we can use to move the country forward.
All right.
Yes.
Now, there's an interesting point that you raised, which is about looking beyond the government, and this is something that we're going to look at. But we have to take a quick break, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
What I'm saying is that before an industrial union, you're a union, proceeds on a strike against an employer, you will serve the mandatory notice of 15 days. Once you serve on your direct employer, which is education, you serve on me too, as the chief consignator. That wasn't done.
It's not a fresh action. We're not declaring any fresh strike. We are resuming a suspended action. That is the way we see it.
Our government have been working. The Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, Attorney General of the Federation, and we are taking some government position, which we had communicated to ASU.
Government has made some offers on the issues that we have raised. We've taken copious note of their offers, but we have to get back to our members